Joining me now is Tony Cardenas-Montana, whose current band is Shadow and the Thrills. Some of you might know him from his time with Great White. Shadow and the Thrills have a great song called Bleeding Out, which we'll talk about. Our audio audience will get to hear in a little bit. But Tony, welcome to the show. Thanks for chatting with me today.
Oh man, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to chatting about the song and what's going on.
Yeah, I want to talk about the song and everything that's going on. I know there's at least one show you have coming up. I was checking out your Instagram. There's some stuff on there I want to talk about, but I always like to know about at what point did you catch, I guess, what we could call the music bug? At what point did you think, hey, I really enjoy music more than I enjoy, like running outside and playing baseball or freeze
Oh
tag or
wow.
whatever kids do. Yeah. So when does that first start to go like, oh, I love music so much. How can I be a part of it?
Oh wow. That's interesting. That when that switch flipped, I guess I was probably about 13 or so,
Okay.
and I used to stay up really late, way past what my parents knew, and watch these couple of shows on regular television called that were have to do with the Hollywood nightlife, and um, they would show pictures of the different clubs and stuff, and I was just fascinated by that. I'd see they'd show pictures of Gazzarri's and Roxy. If people are not familiar with Sunset Strip, those were some mainstays back in those days, late '70s, early '80s. Gazzarri's, Roxy, whiskey, obviously,
Yeah.
and I just was fascinated with it. I thought, yeah, there's something going on. There's people out there doing this, so I decided that's what I wanted to be part of. Yeah.
So, did you grow up in California, or did you have to bring yourself out here to sort of chase everything that was going on?
Well, it's funny. I was close enough to where it was just really a car ride to get down to Hollywood and the Sunset Strip. I grew up in San Gabriel Valley, which oddly enough is quite a kind of a hotbed of music. Bands that came out of that area. Um, Gosh, there was just this whole movement because I guess the proximity to Hollywood and a place where there were record labels and there were clubs to play. Um, yeah, it just that whole area of Southern California just kind of gravitated towards Hollywood. So I did as well.
Yeah,
I
well,
was close
to
enough
talk
to.
about the present day for a second, I live in Burbank, and there's a great little spot up in Agora Hills called the Canyon, where I've
Sure.
seen all sorts of bands perform, and there's a few of those Canyon clubs around. But the first time I went to, because I'm from New York originally, but I lived out here for 20 years. The first time I went to a show at the Canyon Club, it's not, I don't know, half hour north of LA if the traffic's
Sure.
right. I was like, where are all these people coming from? Because I'm not seeing like all these like hardcore, like hard rock fans, when I'm walking around. And, I guess people are kind of drawn to places like that. And I imagine that that's what the Sunset Strip was like in the area you're talking about. I mean, we're lucky that we still have the whiskey. We still have the Roxy. I probably see a few shows a year at both of those places. And, it's fun to, get to kind of think about what it was like. But you talk about Gazzarri's. A lot of people talk about that, and other places that just haven't been there for a while. I imagine it was just like a whole like strip, as the name implies, where you
Sure.
got Rat playing here, Motley Crue playing there, and
Sure.
everything like that. So
Yeah.
being able to just drive to it must have been great. To just I got to go check this out.
Yeah. I I was always the guy that didn't want to go and be I just I had to be a participant. I really wanted to be a participant. So that's what drove me. I mean, I started playing at these places when I was 15 years old, and my father had to come with me to bring me into the club. So I was just driven to be actually out there, and the truth be told, the barrier to entry in those days was pretty low, man. You could jump on stage at Gazzari's for a song and a dance. You didn't have to be any good.
Yeah. Well, it's and I do talk a little bit. I've mentioned this a few times on the show to a variety of artists, but there was a little bit of an obstacle sometimes could be the age restrictions, and
Sure.
growing up in the New York area, that wasn't so much of a problem. But I'll talk to people who grew up in like Seattle, where it was like really strict. So to
Sure.
like actual bars, that's sort of that was sort of the birth of that like straight edge movement where you had the X on your hand because it's like you are not drinking tonight. But the reason I mention all of it is the first concert I ever went to, I saw Alice Cooper at the Ritz in New York City.
Oh, wow. Great venue.
This is the location of the Ritz that used to be Studio 64 because there were a couple of Ritzes. And I was 14 and it was the show for some reason was 16 and up. So my mom made a fake ID for me. It was a fake, like high school ID.
Cool,
She
Mom.
laminated it. We scuffed it up and we did all that stuff because, she wasn't going to miss the show and she didn't want me to miss the show.
Oh, that's
and
precious.
my thinking was, I'm like, let's just get there early and not worry about it. The guy looked at it and she was just like, it's my son. And he's like, fine. I wish I still had that fake ID, Tony. I'd show
that's
it to you right
precious.
now.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. Yeah. We used to, play a couple of different places around LA, and the Gazzari's being one of them. And then there was another place in Pasadena called the Ice House that we would play as kids, as 15-year-old kids.
Is it the same Ice House that they do comedy at now?
Yes.
Oh wow, yeah. I can't imagine seeing a band in that room. That's such a small room,
Yeah, we used to play there with and actually there's two different rooms, or there was. So we would play the band room, and then the comedians would be doing the other side of the place. And yeah, it was an interesting time, man. Interesting time.
So so you
grow up,
you get to
real fast in that
and
environment.
so you start out checking it out in the way that I did, because you realized at an age you wanted to be a part of the music scene. I realized that my let's just say my talents laid elsewhere. I enjoyed music. I would consume it and learn a lot about it. To this day, I still like reading the liner notes and seeing who produced this song, who's the guest harmonica player, everything.
And you can find them these days, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I think that but you having ability and the desire, you start kind of playing. What's the first band? There has to be a jump between this and before you end up being a part of Great White. So what's the next step for you?
There's a lot of jumps, and that they kind of it outlines the way that ecosystem really how it worked, and that was that you just started at some little band and at the bottom and played on the worst night at the worst time, and then you just try to keep graduating. The very, very first band that I played in was a band called Detour. And then that turned into a more heavy metal band. It was called Naked Steel.
Hey, Naked Steel
Naked
Steel is a great name for a band, though.
It's fucking crazy. You're kidding? We were metal, bro.
my favorite band name for a band that never made it was Furious George. So like the monkey, but right. Furious George. And I was like, based on name, that band should have been huge, Tony. You're talking about sort of starting out. I want to share something. I alluded to this, something from your Instagram. Seems like a good time to talk about it. You posted this on your Instagram. So this is a band called Panther, and you played at Chuck Landis's Country Club. And I think it's interesting to see these things, but I was very interested. So this was on Sherman Way in Reseda, not too far from where I am. But Jeff Scott Soto was in that band. So I got to ask you a little bit about that, Tony.
Well, again, this is one of the you always were trying to level up in that ecosystem, right? Like you start at this little band and keep leveling up, and Panther, I didn't play with them for very long, but they were in a pretty good spot, and one of those bands that was headlining some of the bigger venues, and kind of in the fringe of the business, right? So they had to put out an album with Jeff Scott Soto singing, and that was, and then Jeff got picked up by Yngwie Malmsteen, and that was kind of
Yeah.
that band claim to fame that Jeff sang on the album. And so we just, but they were doing, big enough shows. Chuck Landis's Country Club was kind of the ceiling, at that point, for bands on the Strip. Like, you play the Strip, and if you did well there, the Country Club was pretty decent sized capacity, and it was off the Strip, bigger stage. It was more like a real concert theater, like a real venue, and yeah, those are good times, man.
It's interesting because I mentioned to you right before I started that I literally just finished talking to Mark Ferrari, and this was in the notes, but I didn't get to it. When he was with Keel, that was one of the places that they would play the country club. So it seems like, all of those bands, that was a place to go. And just very selfishly, I'm like, oh man, I would love for there to be a venue like this in Reseda where I don't have to try and find parking in Hollywood.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and this is I play in Hollywood, at least 3 times a year, I would say.
Right.
With either with Jack's band or my band or with whomever, a jam or whatever, and it's really it's quite the process to get out there, find parking, pay for parking, and you don't want to lose your spot, so you're stuck there. It's a whole thing. It's not what it used to be. When you're a kid, you just park anywhere and walk. And
no, I think I sometimes think of neighborhoods where I've parked cars, and as an adult and as a father, I'm like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, exactly.
You're lucky that your car was still there sometimes. So you referenced Jack. I assume you're talking about Jack Russell. So do you still play with him? Okay.
Yeah, we still have dates set up, and Jack's been he's been on the mend for a bit, and so we.
Let me just jump in for a second, because a few years ago, this was before the pandemic, there was a tour that he was a part of, him and Bullet Boys. And when I saw Jack, I was like, oh, okay. So, I know he's a little older. I know he's had some issues. And I was wondering, so yeah, I've heard, that he's had some health stuff. But then he starts singing, and you're like, wait, where's this voice coming from? It's like, it sounds like 1990,
Yeah, he's always had that ability, even though maybe, he wasn't feeling great, or, there are other parts of his body that weren't very responsive. His voice was always there. And so we're just, at this point, we're just waiting for him to, get better and to, get back out there with us. And until then, we go out and play, and we just, knock out the songs, and it's still part of my life and part of my schedule.
Sure. Right. But also part of your schedule is your work with Shadow and the Thrill. And that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we talk about is, so you have the current song is called Bleeding Out. Uh-huh. And it's not just a single, it's also a video. And I was explaining to Tony before we started the ins and outs of, streaming a show on YouTube are, even though it's your song, I can show the video, but I can't actually play the song. But yet for our audio audience, I will be able to let them hear it. So, but what I like about the video for this song is that it has a lot of like archival, pictures of you as a kid, but then also you playing in some of the earliest bands. So that's kind of why I'm jumping to it right now, because this is what we were talking about, you sort of starting out, right?
Yeah, I love all that stuff, man. I got to a point where I was thinking, well, the lyrics of the song are, my life. That's the refrain, I guess. And so I thought, well, I might as well just put at least my career, my life in music, starting from when I started as a kid, 15 years old, and playing those clubs and making those flyers and playing beer parties and stuff, keg parties. Man, it was just so much fun. So once I started digging in, it just took on its own life.
Yeah,
And
and it's always
yeah,
fun as a fan, like both Def Leppard and Kiss do something similar to this. I mean, Kiss isn't touring now, but in their years long farewell tour, there was a lot of like sort of archival photos, and with Def Leppard, it's you saw them going all the way back to like 1980 and all that, and
sure.
just sort of having that while you have a song that sort of highlights that. And it looked like there was a picture just there where you were pointing at one of the tables at Barney's Beanery, which because it was quick, but I had
I got to say that is one of the weirdest things that has ever happened to me. My friend and then manager Pete Merluzzi, he met me in Hollywood that night, and he said, "Yeah, let's go to Barney's Beanery." So I meet him there, and we're sitting down, and we're talking, and he looks down, and he keeps looking back up at me, and I was like, he's like, "You're not going to believe this." Of all tables that he could have sat at all positions, he sat there and he looked down and he goes, "That's you." It was hilarious, man. And I was like, "You're full of shit, man." That's not me. But it was hilarious of all things, right?
I had a friend visiting from Australia last week, and I was trying to show him some local spots. So we actually went to Barney's Beanery, and I always have to tell people when I take them there that allegedly Jim Morrison pissed on the bar at some point. But my thinking is like they tell that story, but it's like it probably didn't happen just once, Tony.
There's all kinds of good story there, and obviously the Rainbow, and that's that place has been. So
I love going to the Rainbow. Obviously, they have the statue of Lemmy there, but the upstairs at the Whiskey is the birthplace for the Hollywood Vampires, not the band that Alice Cooper has, but the drinking buddies he had in the 70s.
Sure.
And it's great to just sort of check out all that stuff. So that's fun. Did you have fun sort of digging out some of these older pictures for the video?
Yeah, it really was. Kind of nostalgic too, and I'm just I'm trying to figure out where it's all going, and this kind of gives me a pretty good idea once I started putting all these things together. And obviously the thing that is really the most gratifying for me is to make my own albums and to play my own shows. And so, we're going to be doing more of that in the future.
Yeah, and I know that there was another song Shadow and the Thrill had last year called Sugar Bowl, which I checked that out too. Also, your website, which I think it's Cardenas-Montana.com. I came across a version of the Gnarls Barkley song "Crazy" that you did, which was really fun to hear that. I love stuff like that because I sure wasn't looking for it, Tony, but I really enjoyed it.
It's been making the rounds. It's been making the rounds. I've been getting a lot of texts and messages from my friends that as soon as the single comes out, I guess all the algorithms change a little bit, and then things start popping up, and so we're getting a little bit more activity around those songs specifically, and I was just really surprised. I'm really been happily surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I after I finished the video for Sugar Bowl, I think that the next like autoplay that YouTube does was I think it's just you with a guitar doing Rocket Man, So it's so there's stuff you probably don't even remember is on the internet that just starts playing,
I try to make sure everything's good because that's how it is.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That is the important part.
You never know.
Let's talk about Bleeding Out. You sort of referenced a little bit about the song, and is it part of an album, or is it a plan for an album, or you're just putting out songs at the moment? Let me know, let our audience know.
I think, get it. The plan is that we've got 10 tracks that are kind of gestating and in the womb, so to speak, and we're going to we're gonna, squeak those out every couple months. The next single that is already, kind of is being mixed and that whole thing right now. So yeah, we're going to be putting out about 10 singles over the end of this year and into next year. And at some point, maybe we'll get to a point where we'll compile everything and we'll do another vinyl release as we did with Sugar Bowl.
Well, I'm excited to hear that because, as you know, Tony, I want to know who played tambourine and who played harmonica, and I want to know everybody who did everything. I want to.
It's so fun. It was so fun when when I did put the artwork together for Sugar Bowl, and just exactly what you're talking about, and being able to really give everybody props because some folks did such an amazing job on the. Sylvia Massey mixed this. She's a Grammy-winning mixer, producer, artist in her own right, and being able to let people know these are the folks that were involved: Jack Miele, Brent Arcement, Talissa Long, who's the girl who sang on some of these tracks, Shake the Devil and The Grind. Just such talented folks, make me look a lot better.
Well, yeah, you do always have to have the good supporting staff. It's and I'm glad that you're able to give everybody credit. I know a lot of bands put out singles, and I always like the idea that I'll one day be able to get those singles in some kind of collection. But it's people can just go to YouTube at the moment and find the video we're showing and all of that stuff.
Sure, and, check us out
the YouTube channel. It's just
channel.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Just
Facebook
page, and that kind of
Instagram.
And that leads me to the name Shadow and the Thrill. Where does that come from?
Again, my old friend and old manager Pete Merluzzi, he and I just kind of looked at the collection of songs that I had at the time, and this is like 2018 or so. And he was like, you should put these out. You should get this recorded and do this. And I go, well, what's the band name? I did have a band out here in Los Angeles in the 2000s when I was kind of out of music, really, called Anna's Brother. And we didn't want to do that. And so he suggested, how about, he mentioned that he liked this old radio serial called The Shadow, which is
sure.
an old,
The Shadow Knows. Yeah, they made a movie about it in the 90s. Yeah, I remember.
He's an old radio, file kind of guy, and so we liked that. And then he thought, we should give a nod to the blues and to B.B. King, so we named the rest of the band The Thrill. So Shadow and the Thrill. The Thrill's from The Thrill's gone.
Well, I wonder if it'll be sort of like with Hootie and the Blowfish, where people are going to think your name is Shadow. And
I'm fine with that. That's kind of my cool character.
Yeah, okay.
I'm quiet. I'm pretty quiet, and I like to wear the sunglasses and stuff, and kind of be a little bit more contained when we play. So yeah, I'm cool with that.
So you referenced, that you do get out and do shows, with Jack when he's available. What is on tap for the rest of 2024? Are there Shadow and the Thrill stuff? Are you doing solo stuff? What are some of the places people might be able to find you in the near future?
I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing a show, a couple shows in the Midwest, in Decatur, Illinois, possibly Indianapolis or someplace around there. So that's coming in October for Shadow and the Thrill. I'll also be doing a live stream concert through a company called Stage It and Iora. And Stage It is a live stream where you just kind of, it's just like this basically. And it happens as it happens, and we play, and the band will be playing. Iora is a metaverse app, and so we'll be doing our first show in the metaverse too, so people will be able to go and cool. The whole goggles thing and that will be happening before the end of the year.
Wow,
I'm excited about that. And I tour around with for fun. I have some friends that had a Journey had an idea to start a Journey tribute band, and I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun. something I could do on the off weekends when I'm not out with Jack or not doing my
Yeah.
band. And that just kind of really blew up. So I'm pretty busy with either Jack or the Journey Band or Shadow and the Thrill. So I'm out there. Just keep an eye out get on the Facebook page and keep an eye out. And I'm out there in some way or form.
Now, are you the one who has to try and hit those Steve Perry notes, or does somebody else
No,
do that? Okay.
no. I'm that's one thing I do really like about it is I'm kind of I just play guitar, which is a handful.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite guitar players of all time, Neil Sean, to do. But we do a real good job. It's so much fun. It's a guilty pleasure for sure. And
but those songs are amazing.
Oh yeah,
and,
man.
to hear them perform live. And obviously there's business for a Journey tribute. I've seen them with their current singer Arnell a couple of times, and it's a famous story. I know there was a documentary, but he was in the Philippines in a Journey tribute, and
right.
That's another one of those ones where you see the guy. The first time I ever saw him wasn't live, and I was just like, so this guy's the singer of Journey, and then you're like, wait, Steve Perry sounds more Steve Perry coming out of him than it does out of Steve Perry.
Yeah, so it's something else. Yeah, he's amazing. He's amazing. And
I'm excited. I know they're on tour with Def Leppard again this year, Journey. So that's always exciting when the two of them go out together. And I'm sorry I spoke over you, Tony. What were you going to say?
No, I'd love to go see that as well. I mean, I'm such a fan myself, and I know that I think we're definitely very busy through the end of the year, and we'll be traveling around. Again, Shadow and Thrill will be out in the Midwest, and I'll be doing shows either with Jack or with our band, the band that was always backing up Jack. We'll be out there in some way, shape, or form. In Michigan, I think North Carolina, Missouri. It's all coming up here soon.
Yeah, and people can find you on Instagram as well, Tony Cardenas-Montana, and I mentioned the website Cardenas-Montana, and people can find Gnarls Barkley, Rocket Man, and who knows what else I'm going to find over there. But
there's some good stuff.
Yeah. Look, I mean, there's a lot of stuff there were a lot of bands doing stuff. You're talking about streaming shows. There was a lot of that during the pandemic, but there would be just musicians who'd decide, I'm just going to go live because I'm bored, and they'd take requests or they would do covers, and so that and that stuff's all still out there, So every once in a while you'll find some stuff like that, which is great. Well, Tony, I enjoyed hearing the new music. I look forward to hearing more, and I'll keep my eyes and ears open for when you're playing in Southern California. With the Journey tribute or with yourself, and hopefully you get out there again with Jack, who, like I said, I saw a few years ago. It was great to hear those Great White songs perform live.
For sure. Yeah. We'll probably do Shadow and Thrill. We did a show several months ago at the Mint in LA, and that was so much fun. Such a great little
that's a newer place. I saw the Dead Daisies there a couple years ago, and it was like brand new when I went, and I don't know what it looks like now, but it was like, oh, this is too bright and shiny. This is too nice for a rock club.
Right. Good sound and the good folks. And so we'll probably do that again before the end of the year.
Very cool. Well, as we said in the intro, Shadow and the Thrill, you go to their YouTube page, you'll find a bunch of stuff, but Bleeding Out is the current song. So that's the beauty of it. People watching us right now, they'll just click a button and they'll be able to see and hear it. Our audio audience, you'll hear it in a second. So thanks again, Tony. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat today.
Really appreciate it, man. And hopefully we'll get to chat again soon.
Yeah, absolutely.